Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Pokemon card video. Today we're going to be talking about the changing prices of my PSA collection. I would have done a mail time, but we just didn't have enough mail. The problem is I keep opening it. What I should do is save up a few days of mail and then make a mail time video, but I can't hold myself back. I open my mail every time. Anyways, there's this thing I've been doing ever since I started collecting Pokemon where I will purchase something expensive and then I'll track how much I paid for it, and then I track how it's changed over time. We go off of available buy it now prices rather than some people, they'll take more of like a bearish approach where what they do is they focus on the last sold price, because it's one thing to have an offer, it's another thing to have the card actually sell. However, I like to know what's the cheapest you could buy the card for right now. So I take more of a I take more of a bullish approach where I assume the market's moving up. Okay, so we're going to do that with my cards. People from my live stream who have been around for a while, they remember I used to do this, but I haven't had time to do it in the live stream, so now we're doing it in a video. Let's go ahead and get started. I wanted to show this off first. This was a card I got extremely lucky on. I bought this as a raw card on eBay for $45, and then it came back at $10, which I think is fantastic because even when you pull pack fresh cards out, very often they're not 10s. They're half the time they're 9s, sometimes more than half the time they're 9s. So I don't know how I got so lucky. I thought I'd talk about this because somebody asked, like, what's the tip for buying singles off the market and getting 10s, right? Because I showed it off on TikTok. There's no tip. You could watch the buy it nows and refresh over and over again. You can watch the auctions. You can find somebody you know who's selling them, and they just aren't informed about how valuable the card is when graded. It's kind of like finding a needle in the haystack. It used to be that you could buy first edition raw singles all the time just 2 years ago, but that has really changed. They're all gone. They're all off the market, and some people are making some insanely good money off of that, I assume, including myself. I've graded quite a few cards. So anyways, got this for $45. The last it sold for was $9.50, and there's none on the market. So I put NA when it's not on the market. We marked this for December of 2020, and also I keep track of the population, which is really important. There's 103 10s, there are 280 9s, and that's only for PSA. It doesn't count CGC, it doesn't count BGS, or anything in between. Okay, so we're going to do that for this whole box. This is my English PSA investments, you might call them. Really, they're just nice cards that I like. I do have a complete set of Rocket, and I'm going to have a sort of complete set of like the no rarity symbol base set and the first edition base set, but they won't all be 10s. That would be crazy if I had all 10s. I'm lucky to be in the card hobby, but I'm not that lucky. I don't have, some of these guys, they got like complete sets. Is really wild. Anyways, what's so nice about this video is we can kind of track and see how the cards have changed over time, because I kept track of it so carefully. So back on 5/20, so this is about 7 months ago, right? There were none available, and then there was one made available for $5,000 in December. So you could right now run off and buy this guy. It says right here there's a population of 72 10s. So he's fairly rare. This is Tyranitar from Aquapolis, and with there only being 72 for the 10s, 5,000 actually doesn't seem that bad in my opinion. He's a really beautiful card. I don't remember what I bought that one for. Unfortunately for that card, I didn't actually write it down. So usually when I purchase a card on the back, I write down what I paid for it. This was a card I recently acquired in an auction. This is Blaze Moltres. I got it from a PWCC auction. They listed those cards so poorly. They listed them like within seconds of each other for ending. And the reason that's a problem is because if there's somebody who's trying to snipe an auction, they don't have time to snipe multiple auctions because they're too crowded. Also, there were just too many high-quality cards listed all at the same time. So there's a lot of money in the market, but only so many people with deep pockets will be buying cards at the full market value. So I don't really like the way PWCC listed those. If I ever listed cards for you guys, I would give them like a whole, maybe like 30 minutes in between each other, maybe at least 10 minutes, come on. And not so many good ones at the same time. So we happen to pick it up at a ridiculously good price of $5.6 thousand, which is why I went after it. It's got a population of 54. That's really small, by the way, guys, and there's 298 9s, which means that even when you pull this card pack fresh, there's a good chance it's a 9 rather than a 10. That's what that means. It looks like in December, this card was going for $10,000. Lovely. And part of the reason why there's so few 10s is because there's so much holographic area on the card. More likely it's going to have a scratch, even if it was preserved, and more likely it's going to have a print line. So those two problems occur. Dragonite from Fossil. God, I was happy I picked this up when I did. So it looks like I bought it Yeah, did I mark when? Okay, it looks like I bought it way back when for $1,600. So this little mark here, it's like a conclusion mark, and it means I purchased it for $1,650. Last time I checked the population, it was at 197. This number is probably out of date. And then if we look up here, this card's grown to $10,000. So from this card alone, if I were to sell it, and let's say I were to manage to sell it at 10,000, I'd be making around $8,000 of profit off of the sale of this one card. That's a lot of money. Shining Gyarados. I remember this card. I wish I'd picked up the Shining Magikarp at the time. I don't think I had the cash to pick up Shining Magikarp, but I really ought to have. I always kind of knew the cards were going to go up in value, but I didn't really know just how much and how fast. Like, you know, I would tell my wife, oh, these cards are going to go up in value, but I didn't realize it was going to be so damn fast. They really went up. So I paid $1,373. And then you can see I actually tracked the value of this over time multiple times. So like right here, there were none available, and I said maybe 4K. I said over here, it's moving up to 12K. Over here on the 8th, not the 8th of the, what would be the 8th? Like August or something, September. Anyways, none available. And then in December, there was one available for $10,000. $10,000, huh? Shining Gyarados. Here's a card, again, I was extremely lucky to pick this up. I just kind of saw the writing on the wall. I knew how rare the card was. I knew how desirable Snorlax himself is. And I'm like, I've got to have this card before you can't get him anymore. I picked him up back then for what was a lot of money back then. $2,754 would buy you a lot of any card. So you could go after Charizards or whatever you want, but I knew there were only 67 Snorlaxes. I knew he was going to be like sort of the crown jewel of the jungle set because Snorlax is so popular. And so he started at 2.7, and now he's around $15,000. And what's dramatic about that price is this isn't just the buy it now price. That's the sold price. I've seen him sell for $15,000 recently. So, and if anything, I feel like that might be underpriced. So Snorlax, I feel, might be underpriced. This is one of my favorite cards, by the way. This Expedition Tyranitar is amazing looking. I love the artwork. Do you guys see the artwork on that? God, dude, that's crazy. It's a nice little swirl right there. So this is Expedition Tyranitar, and it looks like the other Tyranitar as well. I didn't write down what I paid for this. I do vaguely remember it, though. I would have paid back then just about $1,000. I actually remember that. I better write that down, in fact, because as time goes by, I'm going to forget. So this was a while ago. I didn't buy this. So you can see the last time I checked price was, again, on the 8th month of the year. And so I bought that before, I bought this before that point, and I know I paid roughly roughly $1,000. So we're going to keep track of that. I already know I paid that much. So he hasn't moved too dramatically. You know, I feel like the E-Series cards kind of fly under the radar more than the main series. Maybe it's because they're younger, but maybe it's because a lot of people had stopped collecting by that point, which is kind of sad when you think about it. But Flareon, obviously, here's a card everyone recognizes, because most people were into collecting cards at this point. And similar to the Snorlax, I thought, oh man, this card's got to go up in price, the Flareon. It did. Yeah, it didn't have the same dramatic rise as some of these other cards. So I bought this at $550 back then. You can see I bought this one a long time ago, because I did a price check in April. So that would have been April 4/21. And so I would have bought this before then. So population of 164, which makes it considerably less rare than the Snorlax. And it's gone up in price roughly by about 5, roughly. 6 to 5, somewhere in between there. We just acquired this Electrode. We got this also out of the PWCC auction. If you didn't know it, I'm actually a fan of Electrode and Magneton and all the sciencey Pokemon that the bad guys had. And we got him for $810 in the auction. It's actually not a fantastic price. It's an okay price. And he only goes for $1,300 because, surprise, surprise, he's not as popular as some other Pokemon. He's Electrode. So 428 9s and 102 10s means that it's hard to get a 10 on this card. That's true for pretty much all the jungle cards, by the way, guys. Jungle cards are hard to grade 10. Here's a card I liked so much, I had to buy it twice. Sabrina's Gengar. I had this card growing up, and I loved the artwork. I didn't know this as a kid, but in the Japanese version of the card, in the background here, actually, if you tilt it, so you'll notice there's like some dashes there. You see those dashes in the middle? There used to be little crucifixes back here because in the original artwork, he's standing in a graveyard. And for the English version, they said, you know what, that's too much for kids. They got rid of the graveyard. So it looks more like he's standing in a desert. Still looks fantastic, by the way. It is sad, though, isn't it? people are so concerned about the sensitivities of a Western audience that children couldn't even be allowed to be seeing like a graveyard. I think that's too far. But, you know, so when I was a kid, I assumed he was standing in the desert. Isn't that funny? I assumed he was standing in the desert. He's not. Anyways, these are both 10s. You can see they were graded a little further back, so that always makes me nervous. I like stare them over. I'm like, is this too fat down here? Yeah, I'm always staring at them, wondering if maybe PSA didn't do their job right. Because these old gradings, PSA was just, I don't know, I think they were a little looser back then. They're always a little loose. You got to make sure the card you're buying really was graded properly. It really was a 10. Now, back then, it was around this time that I was really starting to understand how popularity and rarity works with Pokemon cards, and this is really important. So you can see the first one, it looks like I bought one for $2,000, and I guess back then I put the little triangle on the other side of the number. And then the other one I bought for $3K. So $2,000 and $3,000 were the prices I paid. You could buy one right now for $15,000. So that's the price you'd have to pay to pick one of these cards off the market right now. It means I did really well with this. Gengar is a popular Pokemon, and it's a very rare card, 58. It's funny, it used to say 63, and then PSA updated their database to say 58, so I don't know what happened there. It could actually be 63 is the real number. But either way, that's pretty rare. Kind of like the Snorlax, right? Okay, and of course we have Magnemite. One of my favorite Pokemons is Magnemite and Magneton. There's 95 of these. You wouldn't think you make a lot off of a card like this, you know, because it's just Magnemite. But the funny thing is, it was so cheap back then. I bought this card for $78. Could you imagine going back in time 2 years and picking this card up for $78? It's from a main series. That's the Neo Discovery series. He graded a perfect 10. He's first edition. He's holographic. $78. And he went up to $700. Now, that doesn't sound like a meteoric rise, but it is. That's almost times 10 the original price. So not all cards do that, and that's because really it was very easy to bring them up to $700. You know, nobody's really breaking, well, heavy collectors are not breaking their wallet picking that up for $700. I'll be interested when he breaks 1,000. Rocket's Mewtwo was another card I knew I had to have. I was always a big fan of Rocket. I think that Rocket were the best bad guys, easily. They're actual crooks. They go around stealing Pokemon, right? They're a little bit dangerous. They're like the Mafia. So I liked Team Rocket. They're always the best bad guys. And when Rocket's Mewtwo came out, I never owned one, but I'd seen one, and I was so jelly back then. I always kind of wish I had one. So, of course, I had to buy one. Actually, I bought 2 of them, and I think I traded one to Alkybear. I think Alkybear bought one from me a long time ago. So this again shows the dramatic rise in cost for these cards. Back then, I bought this card for $350. Actually, if we look at that, I almost wonder if that's a 7. Back then, I used a different marker. This might have said $370, and I think I wrote it down as $350. But, you know, it's like a $20 difference. Who cares? When you jump up here in December, you can buy one now for $5,000. Think about how much of an increase in value that is. And honestly, from my point of view, even with the population of 180, that's still kind of low for this card because it's a Mewtwo. So some Pokemon are powerful and cool, and they're just more desirable than others. So even if their population is lower, they still sell for more because their popularity level is so high. So the pop count can be higher than another card, but the popularity of the card could be so much better. The demand is higher, and the price of the card will then just go up. The great example would be like Team Rocket. The Team Rocket set. The Dark Blastoise, there's almost half as many 10s as there are of the Dark Charizard, yet the Dark Charizard is many more times expensive, because there are people who just want Dark Charizard like crazy. Rocket Zapdos, I actually owned this one, and it was always one of my favorite cards. I just love the artwork for the Rocket Zapdos. It's got like this gray background and then this sharp contrasting yellow. You know, it's a powerful looking card. And the Zapdos actually looks naughty, you know what I mean? He looks like he's up to no good, which is, you know, it's cool that they can add a little bit of personality to the card. They don't do that with cards anymore. Let me show you. Do I have one laying around? Let's see. All right, check it out. So, you know, here are the new cards, and they look like they're more symbolic almost, you know what I mean? They're not like hand-drawn. They don't feel hand-drawn, but they feel more like drawn on a computer and a symbolic form of the Pokemon, and they're meant to be more like avatars, you know what I mean? They're meant more to be like thumbnails. But these cards back then, I guess, you know, it was more like a painting. So I really, really liked that they have a bit more of a personality there. Yeah, he's mischievous. He's up to no good. Anyways, I bought this one a long time ago. Gosh, I can't read that, but I almost feel like that says 198. But I say over here 300. That doesn't seem right. I wonder how I made that decision there. I don't know. Anyways, it says there's 150 of these, and that now you can get them for 1.4 thousand. And as a first edition holographic cards from the Gym Challenge set, that just seems really low to me. 1,000 seems low. It's a powerful Pokemon. I think Zapdos is pretty cool, but maybe I'm just that. Maybe it's just me. Maybe other people don't agree. This is one of the best cards I've had in terms of appreciation. You know, he's in the same categories like Snorlax and Shining Gyarados, and I can't remember them all. There's so many. Yeah, he's appreciated really well. And then, right, the Sabrina's Gengar. The thing is, I got 2 of them, and the first one I got from Dave and Adams. Did I write it down? Oh, here it is. The first one I got from Dave and Adams for $780. And I liked the card so much, I got it again for $1,000 from another seller. This story, my friend owned Shining Tyranitar, and it drove me nuts because I really badly liked Tyranitar, and I always wanted him. I had him in the video game, right? Pokemon Silver. Well, anyways, I couldn't have him. My friend wouldn't trade him. And so now I'm an adult. I'm an adult man baby, and I can afford Pokemans. I got 2 of them, first edition. And it turns out these cards are real popular. The Shining series from Neo Destiny's, real expensive to get Neo Destiny booster packs now, right? So there's 119 of these in the population last time I checked. I haven't updated that in a while. The pops on these don't really change too fast, so now it could be like 125 maybe. Anyways, I got it for 780 and 1,000, and now they're going for about 12,000. And I don't know if you guys have stuck around that long, but back then, remember, I've been doing this for almost 2 years. Back then, I was talking about how that's exactly what I expected out of this card. In fact, back then, there was a point where I said not available, and this little arrow pointing to the 8K, the 8K refers to what I would probably sell the card for at the time. And if anything, that was kind of low, because in a very short amount of time, it would jump all the way up to 12K. So 8K might have been kind of low. That 8K would have been the price I gave it before Logan Paul did his big box break and all these huge YouTubers jumped in, right? Now we have a card I actually did own as a kid. This is Shining Kabutops. This was a card I had in my folder. It was probably my most prized card at the time because Neo Destiny was the last set to come out and I was still collecting at the time. And I didn't actually open it myself. I traded for it. And I was always a savvy trader as a little kid. So I got myself a Shining Kabutops, and I stared at it for days. And so I picked one up, of course, as an adult, 140 in the pop. And I got mine for about $594. And you can see actually here, it rose to $625, and I'm like, wow. And then it fell back down to $475. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have purchased this, right? So right after buying it, some months passed, and the price doesn't really change. And it surprises me today that it's still $2,000. I feel like the card could easily be higher than this. It's one of the cheapest Shining Pokemon you can buy. And I think to myself, cheaper than like Noctowl? You know, Noctowl wasn't that prolific in it. That's Gen 2. And Shining Kabutops, he's Gen 1. So I was really surprised by that. He makes it into like Sky Ridge. He makes it into a lot of sets, Kabutops does. So I almost bought another one, by the way, guys. I almost bought a second Shining Kabutops, but I got to take care of the channel. I got to make sure I have product open for you guys. So the temptation was there when I saw that price, by the way. Because the prices of these really have moved up. Here's a cute Clefable. Did I price this? Oh, cool. So this Clefable was another first edition holo I got off the market, and it came back at 9, which I think is a very fair price. And I paid $110 total because I graded it. I didn't do express grading. And the value of it is $350. So that's a decent flip. That's like a $200 flip. But again, it's so hard to find singles that would grade like a 9. This Dragonite was one. I don't think I priced this, did I? No. So I think I was willing to sell that back then for $225. You think we ought to look it up? Let's look that up live real fast while we're doing the video. PSA 8 first edition Dragonite fossil. We're just going to look for the cheapest one. I'm sure there's one on the market. I'm curious because I almost sold that card for less than $225, and I think it would have been a big mistake, and I stopped myself. All right, I found the cheapest 8, and the cheapest 8 is $600 now. So the card has nearly tripled in price. Remember, I'm taking a bullish approach. So we would say, well, I received this as a raw card. Let's say it cost me, I'm going to say $120 to obtain. I don't know how accurate this is, but I probably didn't pay. I bought this a while ago, so I probably didn't pay an obscene amount for it, and then I graded it, so I'm going to say about $120. That's probably pretty close to what I would have actually paid. And then today goes for 600, and that would be on 12/20. So December. I don't know what the population is either. We could fill that in. So it used to go for around 200, and I almost sold it, and I said, you know what, I really shouldn't. And now it's going for 600. This is great. You guys really ought to pay attention to stuff like that, because it means, you know, a lot of people are sad that they can't pick up PSA 10s of their favorite card, but guess what? If you're going to pick up a card and you can't really afford it, you're going to break the bank, maybe you're still in school, maybe you don't have a great paying job, you can pick up a lower grade. You know, I don't have any shame in that. I'm still holding on to this card. This is an 8. I'm going to show you a card I have that's a 7. Here's a Snorlax 7. He's a no-symbol Snorlax. You know, I'd rather have a 10, but I'm not going to sell him to try and afford the 10 because I don't mind having the 7, right? You know what I mean? So we're holding on to the 8, and there's plenty of 8s and 9s and even 7s out there that you could go after. Let's see. Here's a Magneton that I graded myself. Did I price this? Ooh, I should have priced this one. So this is an unlimited 10 Magneton fossil, and I actually got this off the market, and it graded a 10. This is another rare anomaly. Never happens. Let's see. I think, yeah. So we've been through all the crazy cards. What we were going through at the end there were like my lower grade cards. So we've gone through all of them. Let me know if you enjoyed doing this. I've got a lot of different Pokemon cards that we could do this to. I got a large Japanese collection. I got a Rocket Returns collection. I got a Team Rocket collection. And I can just do a various price analysis of different vintage sets or even modern sets, by the way. Understanding modern prices. You know, a lot of investor types will avoid the moderns. Oh, don't buy modern. Don't buy modern. Don't. The thing is, you can buy anything at the right price. And the question of how much will a card appreciate is a more complicated question at that point, okay? So you could do really any set. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment in the comment section. And don't forget to follow for more. We go live every day. I'm going to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.